Well, guys, we know how the extreme left can get out of hand in particularly other states, not so much in Perth, so I hear. So we will get a start and then we all let them have their say. Oh, noisy, see? All right, I stand here today saddened that so many still today remain silent when it comes to the slaughter and persecution of Christians throughout the Middle East. I ask why. I refuse to remain silent. I refuse to turn a blind eye. We all must raise our voices against such acts of brutality. 2015, last year, was the worst year on record for the persecution of Christians, with Muslim nations being the most dangerous places for followers of the gospel. Turn the page. Islamic extremism continues to be the primary driving force behind the expansion of persecution. This is no longer just a Christian problem. It is a global problem that needs to be addressed now. More than 7,000 Christians were killed for their faith in 2015, 50% more than the previous year, with more than 1 million Christians being displaced in the Middle East. What we're seeing is the entire text of the Quran being played out literally throughout the Middle East. We have seen the beheadings of Christians, the bloody hallmark of ISIS, and their ongoing cleansing of Assyrians, Christians, Yazidis, gays, and other minorities. Their aim is to rid and cleanse the Middle East of all religious minorities, to further advance their caliphate in the hope that Sharia will one day rule the world. There has been no action taken. Good, one gone. Okay, we have seen the beheadings of Christians, the bloody hallmark of ISIS, and their ongoing cleansing of the Assyrians, Christians, Yazidis, gays and other minorities. Their aim is to cleanse the Middle East of all religious minorities, to further advance their caliphate in the hope that Sharia will one day rule the world. There has been no action to halt the ongoing slaughter. One Christian is slaughtered every 3 minutes in Syria, Iraq, and Africa, yet the silence is deafening. ISIS is using the Christian churches to torture chambers where they force the Christians to either convert or die. Our churches in Australia and globally remain silent, so not to offend. I say this, shame on our churches, including our government, our many politicians and councils in Australia for not standing up. Wake up, Australia, in particularly churches, the church leaders, as it appears that you would harbour those who pose as a threat, such as Islamic refugees, instead of helping those who are being persecuted. We are forgetting that our nation was founded on Judeo-Christian values. We are forgetting that it was the sacrifices of our very brave grandfathers and forefathers that laid down their lives for Australia and those they loved. The many genuine refugees do not even get to make their journey to freedom. It is unfortunate too often pressure groups overlook the persecuted minorities and the need for national security. Shame on our councils and governments who are hell-bent on protecting those that we had already said no to and neglecting the persecuted minorities. Not to mention you are forgetting and neglecting your very own people right here at home. Shame on the Fremantle Council who think they represent the people, that they are the traitors of our nation, who passed a resolution that they are now a refugee-friendly council and have funded the Welcome Refugees banner out of taxpayers' money. Not to mention it is no surprise that Councillor Sam Wainwright is part of the Socialist Alliance. They are the flag burners and the loony extreme left in our country. Our government now has very foolishly succumbed to the United Nations. The plan was to stop the boats. We did. They stopped. We are now flying over to pick up the very refugees we didn't want, saving them the trip, flying them directly from the UN camps to our shores. Australia, I believe, should walk away from the 1951 Refugee Convention. This is the UN Convention our politicians use to excuse them from allowing unrestricted inflows of illegal immigrants. We need to vote to rid Australia of this curse. Our churches instead are busy harbouring and welcoming those who want to do us harm. We need to draw a line in the sand and stop being so tolerant to those who are intolerant. Australia and the West has embraced Islamic immigration for the sake of being politically correct, and this is what will destroy our country. We are seeing Islamic conquest of Europe. We are seeing the impacts of Islam globally and on our soil. We need to call for an immediate moratorium on the admission of Islamic people into this country. This should be indefinite. We should not be inviting the enemy into our country. It is the very people like Sarah Hanson-Young, Fremantle Council, other councils, many churches and councillors just like Sam Wainwright, the left, Antifa and the Greens, and perhaps now even Turnbull, that defend and continue to harbour economic refugees into this country. The welfare parasites that we want to feed off the country, while we continue to neglect our homeless, our farmers, and everybody else in this country, the hard-paying tax workers of Australia. The only refugees we should be taking in are the ones that will integrate and not present as a threat to our country. We, the people of Australia, should be able to select the type of people we want here, and we should get to have the final say who comes to our country. We have the right to keep Australia safe. When Australia is no longer in debt, we should only take in genuine refugees, but those who are compatible and share our values, and only those who will embrace the Australian way of life and have been thoroughly vetted. We need a government and politicians that will protect our country from the threat of potentially aggressive persons that are committed to the creation of Islamic states worldwide and are detrimental to the future of Australia. I have been contacted by Syrians, Assyrians, Egyptians, Indians, Germans, Greeks, Asians, Hungarians and others who have taken up permanent residency in Australia because of the threat to their culture in their country, their way of life, and the risk of persecution due to mass immigration or Islamic advancement in their country. They too are telling me that our government is stupid for letting in the same people into our country. These are the very people that have ruined their country. They moved to Australia in the hope that they would remain safe, only to see our government bowing down and that Australia is headed down the wrong path and making the very same mistakes as did their country. And very soon, our country too will experience serious ramifications, letting in those who refuse to assimilate, those who refuse to integrate, and will fight to change our laws and culture to suit their own. Just remember, people, not all refugees should be welcomed into our country. If we continue to increase Islamic immigration into our country, we will be increasing the risk of terrorism to Australia. Taking in the wrong refugees will be digging our very own grave. We already have thousands of sleepers sitting in our country. The Christians have no other country to take or rescue them. It is up to the Western countries. Not one Muslim country will step up to rescue the Christians. To take in refugees other than genuine persecuted gays, religious minorities such as Christians, Assyrians and Yazidis, we will be playing a very dangerous game of Russian roulette. This is a risk Australia should not afford. If we turn our backs on those who need rescuing the most, we are leaving them to a destiny of torture or death. It is up to us to stand up. It is up to us to do something for those who are persecuted and forgotten minorities. So on behalf of the majority of Australians in this country, I say, not all refugees are welcome here. Instead of let them stay, I say send them back.